Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at another Harrier that is coming to the game. This is coming for the American tech tree and it is a premium Harrier, which is pretty cool. The closest one that this is like is actually the AV-8B Plus, surprisingly. You can see it right here at 13.0 in Air Realistic and 12.0 in Ground. Now the AV-8B NA, which you'll actually find at this rank, so rank 7, so you'll be able to efficiently grind the whole tech tree with it. It is incredibly similar in actual performance to the AV-8B Plus, but has some very key differences and why it is such lower in BR. So first of all, it has the Rolls-Royce F402RR408. This is for the Plus. And then for the AV-8B, it has the exact same engine. So this has the exact same flight performance as the 13.01. It also has the 25mm that you can remove if you want to. And one of the things that is different from at least the X-ray between the two is this one doesn't have a radar right now. I'm guessing it will have a radar at some point, but you can see here with the AV-8B Plus, it has the AN/APG 65Q, and also on the model, if you have a look at it, the Plus is a little bit longer in the nose to be able to fit that radar in, whereas the NA is a little bit more stubby. The other part which is different is the secondary armaments that we'll get into in a bit, but you can also see here that the AV-8B NA does have, you know, a very good RWR. It does have all of the standard ones that you would want in forms of CCIP and CCRP, and look at the optics, 4.1 times to 49.1 times TVF-LIR, meaning that you can be very accurate with your secondary ordnance. So what is that secondary ordnance? There's a lot of different things here that you can bring along with the AV-8B NA, but there are some striking misses compared to the Plus. The big thing about the Plus is you have the AIM-9M and you have the AIM-120A, right? And also access to all of the other secondary weapons, whereas the AV-8B NA really only has the ground striking ordnance. It doesn't have the AIM-9M and it also doesn't have the AIM-120. So technically, this vehicle should be higher in BR in ground, since they have very similar performances, but I'm guessing they just haven't got around to that yet, or because it's a premium, it's going to get some niceties for it. But in air, this thing should be way lower because it doesn't have the IRCCM missiles, which the Plus does, and also doesn't have, of course, the AMRAAM. So in terms of secondary ordnance, what does this thing have? Well, it can carry 4 AIM-9Ls. These are the all-aspect sidewinders, which are very good. They are definitely ones to enjoy. You'll actually find them on the Sea Harrier in the standard tech tree for Britain and also the squadron vehicle. The loadout that this has is more similar to the squadron vehicle one for Britain, but this one also gets access to a lot more secondary weapons too. You get the 25mm, but you can remove it if you want and add in a targeting pod. This vehicle gets access to the Lightning II and a bunch of different paveway options. So a bunch of guided bombs that you can bring along with the thermal pod if you want to. This already has a pretty good optic on it though, but the thermal pod gives you the ability to see things from absolutely miles away. You have a bunch of dumb bombs if you want to use those too, rockets, napalm up the wazoo, and then also even some larger paveways in the form of 1,000-pounders. Plus, you have the Mavericks, which you can bring along too, but none of the ones that you really want to bring along. These ones are just the kind of laser and IR guided ones, but they're the ones with the HE warhead, which is more designed to overpressure stuff instead of, you know, penetrates, which is why the D is the one you usually want to go for instead of the E2 or the G. Now, another thing that I did miss on this vehicle is it does have access to the new mechanics for modifications, the JDAMS, the GBU-38 specifically. This is guided by GNSS, which is basically a satellite-guided bomb, and the way that this works is very similar to kind of the CCIP, apart from you can fire multiple bombs at different targets at the same time, while also being able to do other stuff. So once you've picked a point on the map where the bomb's going to fall, it's going to fall there as long as, you know, you're not going too fast, and you can do multiple kind of hits with these bombs in different places, which is going to be very good in something like air realistic and also ground realistic if you are going to be able to hit stationary targets. These do not track moving targets, so if you want to do something like that, it's better to take something like the paveways. But with the paveways, you're more limited on being able to choose one target at once and then waiting for the bomb to hit and then throwing another one out, whereas these, you can pick 10 separate targets at the same time and drop them all on those areas. So, for example, I'll show you what I mean. And at 11.3, this might be super dangerous, by the way, to be able to do, which is why I feel like in ground, this vehicle should be a lot higher BR than it actually is. So the AIM-9Ls are nice, and the countermeasures as well. You get 180 of them, which are nice too. So since this doesn't have like an afterburning engine, doesn't create as much of a heat signature than some of the big bangers there. But looking at these bombs, right? So this is not the targeting pod, the lightning. This is just what the Harrier gets access to. You can see how far you can fly in, and also you have, of course, the thermals on top of it. So let's say I'm just like flying forward and there's a bunch of targets in this direction. You can just plonk all different bombs in different places along a line, or, you know, move them around wherever, and then you can just go on your merry way and watch the bombs go in. You can see them flying to the targets all together, all going to their different areas, and it's just completely nuts what you're going to be able to do with this. This is fundamentally going to change how people kind of ground pound in air realistic, because a lot of the time you'll just be able to hit targets in a row like this and just annihilate stuff. So there you go. There's all the bombs off, all in their respective positions, all in the kind of length that I set them up on. So kind of crazy, right? From a air perspective, Harriers definitely get worse as they go up in BR. But the AMRAAMs definitely bail out some of the later ones. The AV-8B's in a situation where it's going to be pretty similar to something like the Sea Harrier FRS-1. And as a person who has spaded and ground out the Sea Harrier FRS-1 with access to its AIM-9Ls, I'm not really sure if I'd want to have a premium version of that, because the AIM-9Ls are nice. You know, obviously they are something which you can use pretty effectively against a lot of targets, but also at the same time, at 11.3, you're starting to get into that semi-active radar homing era, where you start facing very powerful machines with access to much better stuff than you do. Now, the RWR that the Harrier gets is really nice, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. It does have access to a full cockpit already, which is super nice, and you can see the RWR there, and all of the different controls that are around. It doesn't have HMD or anything like that, which would be a little bit odd, and with the engine you do have to worry about, you know, hammering it, so you will have to like pull back on the stick every so often. But this vehicle being limited to just having sidewinders and not having access to kind of more advanced weaponry like semi-actives or even a radar right now, kind of means it has to be a short-range vehicle in something like air realistic. So I'm not sure how useful it's going to be for people to actually play there. In ground, though, this thing will be very good, with access to a ton of different bombs, you know, and also since it has quite a lot of countermeasures, you know, you can use the chaff and the flares to keep all the missiles away from you. You can go high, use the targeting pod, and annihilate stuff, just like you would with something like an AMX, for example, which is something that's very good at what it does. So if you're looking for this to grind out in air realistic or air arcade, not really a great idea in my opinion, but as a CAS aircraft, that's definitely up there. I would consider it over the other options that are as premiums. There are still better vehicles in the tech tree that you can use, but obviously you get this for the bonuses. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.